It starts quietly. You don't notice it at first. Maybe you find a single gray hair. You pluck it out and forget about it. Or maybe your knee makes a new sound when you stand up. A little click you've never heard before, you start needing glasses to read the menu in a dark restaurant. You get tired earlier than you used to. These are the first whispers of aging. For all of human history, this has been the deal. We're born, we grow up, we grow old, we die. It's as natural as the sunrise. It's the one experience that connects every single person who has ever lived. But what if it's not? What if aging isn't a fact of life? What if it's a disease? That question sounds like science fiction. It sounds arrogant, maybe even crazy. But it's a question that a growing number of serious scientists, doctors, and researchers are asking. And they're not just asking it, they're trying to answer it. They're trying to figure out if aging is a problem we can solve, a disease we can cure. This isn't about vanity. It's not about smoothing wrinkles or dyeing hair. It's about something much deeper. It's about health. Think about the major diseases that kill people in the developed world. Like heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, stroke. What do they all have in common? Age is the single biggest risk factor for every single one of them. A 30-year-old rarely gets a heart attack. An 80-year-old is at high risk. Cancer is overwhelmingly a disease of older people. Alzheimer's is almost unheard of in the young. We spend billions of dollars fighting each of these diseases individually. We have a war on cancer, a war on heart disease. But what if we're fighting the wrong war? What if we're just playing a game of whack-a-mole? You beat back cancer, and then heart disease gets you. You solve heart disease, and Alzheimer's is waiting around the corner. The new thinking is this: maybe these aren't separate enemies. Maybe they are all just symptoms of one underlying condition, and that condition is the aging process itself. If you could slow down or even reverse the process of aging, you wouldn't just be preventing one disease. You would be pushing back against all of them at once. You wouldn't just be adding years to life. You'd be adding life to years. This is the core idea. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about medicine and health. So, the first step is to decide, is aging really a disease? The word disease has a specific meaning. It's usually defined as a disorder of structure or function in a body, one that produces specific signs or symptoms, and is not simply a direct result of physical injury. Let's see if aging fits. Does it cause a disorder of structure or function? Absolutely. Our arteries harden, our bones become brittle, our brains shrink, our immune systems weaken. Our organs work less efficiently. This is a progressive loss of function across the entire body. Does it produce specific signs or symptoms? Yes. Wrinkles, gray hair, hearing loss, muscle weakness, memory decline. The list is long. Is it a direct result of physical injury? No. It happens on its own, from the inside out. By this definition, aging looks a lot like a disease. It's a chronic, progressive, systemic condition that eventually leads to death. The only reason we don't usually call it a disease is because it happens to everyone. It's universal. But universality doesn't mean something isn't a disease. If there were a virus that infected 100% of people and slowly caused their bodies to break down, we would without a doubt call it a disease and work tirelessly to cure it. So why is aging different? The only difference is that we've accepted it as inevitable. But scientists are no longer accepting that. They've started to map out the territory. They've identified what they call the hallmarks of aging. These are the fundamental biological processes, the root causes of the damage that we see as we get older. There are 9 of them, but we can talk about a few to get the idea. One is genomic instability. Think of your DNA as a massive instruction book. Every time one of your cells divides, it has to copy that entire book perfectly. But over a lifetime of billions and billions of copies, mistakes are made. Typos creep in. The pages get damaged by sunlight, by chemicals in our food, by simple bad luck. At first, the cell's proofreading systems can fix the errors. But over time, the damage piles up. The instructions get garbled, a cell with bad instructions might stop working correctly. Or worse, it might start growing out of control. That's cancer. So genomic instability is a core driver of aging. Another hallmark is telomere attrition. At the end of each of your chromosomes, you have a little protective cap called a telomere. Think of it like the plastic tip on a shoelace. It stops the shoelace from fraying. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres get a tiny bit shorter. Eventually, they get so short that the cell can no longer divide safely. It either dies or becomes a problem cell. This shortening of telomeres is like a clock, counting down the lifespan of our cells. Then there's cellular senescence. This is a fascinating one. Sometimes a cell becomes so damaged that it's in danger of becoming cancerous. To protect the body, the cell enters a state of suspended animation. It stops dividing. This is called senescence. In a young person, the immune system comes along and clears out these senescent cells. It's like a janitor cleaning up trash. But as we get older, our immune system gets weaker. And more of these senescent cells hang around. They become like zombie cells. They don't die, but they're not working properly either, and they secrete a cocktail of inflammatory chemicals that damage the healthy cells around them. They create a toxic environment inside our tissues, accelerating the aging process. It's been shown that just a small number of these zombie cells can have a huge negative impact on an organ. These are just a few of the hallmarks. There are others related to how our cells use energy, how they communicate, and how our stem cells get exhausted. The point is, aging isn't a mystery anymore. It's not some magical force. It's a series of understandable biological processes. And if a process is understandable, it might also be treatable. This is the new hope. Each of these hallmarks is a potential target, a place where we could intervene. Of course, not everyone agrees with this way of thinking. There are strong arguments against calling aging a disease. Some people say it's a semantic game. They argue that aging is a natural, essential part of life. To call it a disease pathologizes a normal human experience. It turns a stage of life into a medical condition. Is being a teenager a disease? Is menopause a disease? They are natural biological transitions. Maybe aging is just the final one. There's also a fear that framing aging as a disease will devalue old age. It could increase ageism. If being old is a sickness, then old people are sick. It could undermine the wisdom, experience, and dignity that we associate with a long life. It could create a society obsessed with a narrow definition of youth and vitality and a fear of the natural progression of life. And then there are the practical and ethical dilemmas. Big ones. Let's say we succeed. Let's say we find a cure for aging. Who gets it? Will it be available to everyone or only the super rich? The gap between the rich and the poor is already huge. What happens when the rich can buy not just bigger houses, but more life? Imagine a world where one class of people lives to be 150 or 200, while everyone else still lives a normal lifespan. It's the plot of a dystopian movie, and it's a real concern. Then there's the overpopulation question. The planet is already struggling to support its current population. What happens if people stop dying off at the expected rate? Where do we put everyone? How do we feed them? How do we manage the resources? The social and environmental consequences could be catastrophic. And what about the meaning of life itself? Our lives have a certain shape, a certain urgency, because they are finite. We know we have a limited time to learn, to love, to create, to experience things. Does that urgency disappear if we believe we have centuries to live? Would we become a society of procrastinators? Would a 90-year-old still be considered a young adult, just starting their second or third career? How would things like marriage, family, and retirement work? A till death do us part, vow means something very different if death is 200 years away. The entire structure of our society is built around a certain lifespan. Radically changing that would change everything. These are not trivial questions. They are deep, complex problems that go far beyond the science lab. And we don't have good answers for them yet. But the science isn't waiting for us to figure it out. It's moving forward, and it's moving fast. So what are the actual approaches being explored? What does a cure for aging even look like? It's not about finding a single magic pill or a fountain of youth. The approach is multi-pronged, targeting the different hallmarks of aging. It starts with the basics, the things we already know. Diet and exercise are powerful anti-aging tools. Caloric restriction, or eating less, has been shown in countless animal studies to extend lifespan. It seems to put the body into a kind of survival mode, activating cellular repair pathways. Intermittent fasting tries to get some of these same benefits without constant hunger. Exercise is maybe the closest thing we have to a miracle drug right now. It improves mitochondrial function, reduces inflammation, builds muscle, and keeps our brains healthy. These are not exciting futuristic solutions, but they work, and they form the foundation of any serious attempt to live a longer, healthier life. The next level up involves drugs and supplements. This is where things get more experimental. You might have heard of some of these. There's a diabetes drug called metformin. Millions of people take it safely every day. Researchers notice that diabetics taking metformin seem to live longer, on average, than even healthy people not taking it. The theory is that it mimics some of the effects of caloric restriction, improving how our cells use energy. A major clinical trial is underway right now, called the TAME trial, to test if metformin can directly slow the aging process in healthy older adults. If it works, it would be a landmark moment. It would be the first FDA-approved anti-aging drug. Another drug getting a lot of attention is rapamycin. It was discovered in the soil of Easter Island. It's a powerful immune suppressant used to prevent organ transplant rejection, but in low doses, it seems to have a profound effect on aging in animals. It inhibits a pathway in our cells called mTOR, which is a key regulator of growth. By dialing down mTOR, rapamycin seems to trick the body into thinking times are tough, activating the same kind of cellular cleanup and repair processes as fasting. It has extended the lifespan of mice more than any other drug tested, but it's a serious drug with potential side effects, so researchers are still figuring out how it could be used safely in humans. Then there are supplements like NMN or NR. These are precursors to a vital molecule called NAD+. NAD+ is essential for energy production and DNA repair. The problem is our NAD+ levels decline dramatically as we get older. By age 50, you might have half the NAD+ you had at age 20. The idea behind taking NMN or NR is to boost those levels back up, giving our cells the raw material they need to function properly and repair damage. The research in mice is very promising. They show improved energy, better metabolism, and other signs of rejuvenation. Human studies are ongoing, but the jury is still out on how effective it really is. These approaches are about slowing things down. They're about maintenance and repair. But the most exciting and most radical research is focused on actual reversal. This is where we get into cutting-edge biotechnology. One of the hottest areas is the development of senolytics. These are drugs designed to hunt down and kill those zombie senescent cells. The idea is simple. If these cells are spewing out inflammatory garbage and poisoning their neighbors, let's get rid of them. In experiments, old mice were given senolytic drugs. After the zombie cells were cleared out, the mice got healthier. Their fur grew back thicker. Their kidney function improved. They could run farther on a treadmill. They were, in many measurable ways, younger. Several different senolytic drugs are now in human clinical trials for conditions like arthritis and lung disease. The goal is to see if clearing senescent cells can improve the function of specific aging tissues. Even more futuristic is the idea of epigenetic reprogramming. This is a real mind bender. Your DNA is your hardware, but your epigenome is your software. The epigenome is a layer of chemical marks on your DNA that tells your cells which genes to turn on and which to turn off. It's what makes a skin cell and a brain cell. A brain cell, even though they have the exact same DNA. As we age, this software gets buggy. The chemical marks get scrambled. Cells start to lose their identity and forget how to function properly. This epigenetic noise is now thought to be a major driver of aging. In 2006, a Japanese scientist named Shinya Yamanaka discovered that he could take a regular adult cell, like a skin cell, and add just 4 specific proteins to it. These Yamanaka factors would completely reset the cell's epigenetic software. They would erase all the marks of age and specialization, turning the adult cell back into a pluripotent stem cell, just like one from an embryo. It was a stunning discovery that won him a Nobel Prize. The question then became, could you do this inside a living animal? Could you reset the age of cells without turning them into a cancerous tumor? A few years ago, a team of researchers tried it. They took old mice that were aging prematurely and engineered them so they could turn on the Yamanaka factors for short periods of time. The results were astounding. The mice were rejuvenated, their spines straightened. Their organs showed signs of repair. They lived 30% longer than the untreated mice. They didn't just slow down aging, they reversed it. This is not science fiction. This happened. It was a proof of concept that the biological clock could be turned backwards. Now, this is incredibly complex and dangerous. Doing this in humans is a long, long way off. You could easily create tumors. But the door has been opened. The idea that aging is a one-way street has been shattered. We now know that the information to be young is not lost in our old cells. It's just scrambled. And we are learning how to unscramble it. So where does this all leave us? Is aging a disease we can cure? The answer is not a simple yes or no. It's more complicated than that. Yes, in the sense that we are beginning to understand aging as a biological process that can be targeted and manipulated. We are moving beyond just treating the diseases of old age and are starting to go after the root cause. The goal that is emerging is not so much about curing aging in the sense of achieving immortality. Most serious scientists in the field don't talk about immortality. They talk about health span. Lifespan is how many years you live. Health span is how many of those years are healthy, active, and free of disease. Today, for many people, the last 10 or 20 years of life are spent in a slow decline, managing multiple chronic illnesses. The real goal of this research is to compress that period of sickness. It's to make it so that you are healthy and vibrant at 80, at 90, at 100. It's about dying young, but as late as possible. If we can extend health span, extending lifespan will likely be a side effect. But health is the primary goal. And no, in the sense that aging is so profoundly complex, so deeply woven into our biology that a single cure is probably impossible. It's, it's not like a bacterial infection where you can take an antibiotic and kill the bug. Aging is a multifaceted process of accumulating damage. It will likely require a combination of therapies applied over a lifetime to manage it effectively. It might be more like managing diabetes than curing polio. It could become a chronic condition that we treat but never fully eliminate. We are living in a strange and exciting time. For the first time, we have the scientific tools to seriously intervene in the process that has defined the limits of human life since the beginning. We are at the very beginning of this journey. Most of the exciting research is still in petri dishes and mice. It will take years, maybe decades, for these discoveries to become safe and effective treatments for people. There will be a lot of hype, a lot of dead ends, and a lot of companies trying to sell you unproven supplements along the way. But the direction of travel is clear. We are learning to see aging not as a destiny, but as a biological problem. And humanity is very, very good at solving biological problems once it sets its mind to it. The biggest challenges may not be scientific, but social and ethical. We need to have a conversation, as a society, about what we want this future to look like. How do we ensure these treatments are shared equitably? How do we adapt our social structures, our economies, and our personal philosophies to accommodate longer, healthier lives? How do we find meaning and purpose in a life that could be dramatically longer than any we've known before? The quiet whispers of aging will continue for all of us. The gray hairs will appear. The knees will click, but for our children or our grandchildren, the story may be different. They may see aging not as an inevitable decline into frailty, but as a treatable condition. A condition you manage throughout your life, like brushing your teeth or watching your weight. They may live in a world where a 90-year-old can play tennis, start a new company, or fall in love with the same energy and health as a 50-year-old today. That future is no longer just a dream. It is a possibility that scientists are building, one experiment at a time. The question is not just whether we can do it, the question is what we will do with it when it arrives.